Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dave, here we go, gamers, and today we're going to be looking at this PlayStation 4 motherboard where they took it to another repair shop, and this local repair shop completely destroyed this HDMI header. So let's go over to the upper cam and see what we got going on. All right, so you guys can see we have a PS4 fat motherboard. This is one of the fats where both sides will be like the matte black instead of one being like the glossy black one. Let's go under the microscope. And this is exactly how it came. The HDMI port was already off. They hit up the customer, said they couldn't figure it out, said they had no idea what was going on with the console. Well, I can tell you right now what's going on with this console. What you can see right here, when they took up the HDMI port, they completely destroyed that, completely destroyed these traces right here, completely destroyed this trace right here. This trace is nowhere to be found, and this component is missing as well, and I have no idea how that even happened. I don't know if that was broke before it got there, but obviously these traces, you can see what happened was from the up angle that they're in, this was just ripped off, and then they just hit up the customer, said, hey, I don't know what's going on. Then when the customer got it back, the customer told us like, yeah, it came in with, we brought it to them and it at least had an HDMI port in there. When we got it back, it had no HDMI port in there. So I mean, that's pretty crazy. So this is what we're dealing with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and obviously put all fresh new solder across this header, put a fresh new solder right here, replace this component. I'm going to have to grab that from a donor motherboard. These right here, I'm going to take these just completely off the board because I'm going to put all new copper lines right here. So all this stuff I'm going to remove, and we're just going to redo all of this. So let's get started. All right, so I have my donor motherboard. Now what I'm going to do right now is turn on my fume extractor, take my heat gun like so. And I'm going to first off take off this HDMI port because I want to get this HDMI port out the way. And then we're going to remove that that component and get it put onto the new motherboard, well, onto the other motherboard. So we have the old HDMI port taken off of this donor board. I'm just gonna slap a little bit of flux on there. I put a little bit too much, but it is what it is. Now we're just going to heat up our heat wand and get this fuse taken off. Perfect. So we got that off, and let's allow this just to cool down a little bit. Now I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm going to put the other board back up here real quick. All right, so before we put the new fuse on there, first thing I'm going to do is pop some flux around the entire header, including where we're going to put the fuse at, so we can take those old prongs off and also replace it with fresh solder. So let's get that done. Fresh new solder on here. This header is very rough to be honest. You saw I scratched out a little bit up here so I can put a little bit of solder up there just to make it easier. Once I get the new port in place, I can be able to take my copper line and solder it down and create a new trace. I'm trying to hold these tweezers steady so I can pop that down on there. All right, so I got that down on there. I'm gonna allow this heat wand to heat up. Then I'm going to try to move this into place while this heat wand is heating up, just so it can be able to flow right into the solder pad. All right, I'm gonna clean up that fuse because I'm not sure if I got it in the right place because I can't see the line. If you guys don't know, there's always like lines on these little components, these black ones. You can see these lines right here. It's kind of hard to see, but I gotta clean that up. As you see, this pad is starting to lift up. This pad was weak, and I knew something was wrong with this pad because when I was trying to apply solder to it, it wasn't wanting to get on there the right way. That's why I couldn't put a ton of fresh solder on there because this pad is weak as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna put another one on there. This one is toast. Yeah, I'm just gonna put another one there. I can't even see where the line is even at on this one, so I'm just gonna replace this one again. I just noticed as well, so I got the component on there, but I just also noticed, see, it's difficult working with these pads that you don't want to do too much with them and end up destroying the pad and end up having to do solder, new copper traces for everything. So this one right here is kind of lifted off the board. So what I'm going to do is I got this small flathead screwdriver. I'm going to come in here, just open up a little bit so I can be able to connect the padding with the solder underneath. Okay, now I'm gonna pop a little bit of flux on there. That should be just enough because we don't need a lot. Now I'm gonna come in here to my solder tip, try to get this copper pad to connect. And now that is good. So that just gives me a peace of mind that that copper pad over there is now fully connected, and I'm actually going to now go through and check all the other copper pads, make sure they're not coming up. I know for a fact this one is right here. That one's good. And all these over here look fine too. I mean, I could check this one over here. That one looks fine. Okay, this copper pad is coming up, but this is actually a ground pad, so I'm not too worried about that one. This one is good. That one's good. Very cool. So it's just also just that one ground pad that's coming up. So now what I'm going to do now is just going ahead and apply more flux to the header, put this new HDMI port in place, get the solder pads, and I can get solder down to the new HDMI port on there. And when it comes to everything else, we're just going to just start moving with the traces once we get the HDMI port soldered down. So let's move on to that. All right, so I got the heat gun underneath the header. You can start to see some of the solder starting to liquefy. All right, so now we're going to pop some flux on the entire header. Got that flux added on there. And now let's start going through and soldering down what we can onto the header. I went through and I tested all the solder. I'm just making sure this copper wire line will fit right there, and it will. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna now go in, pop a little bit of flux on the edge of that, and I'm gonna tend my solder tip just a little bit, not a lot, literally just like a touch. You can see my solder iron. I just touched it. That was it. You know, and hell, that might even be too much, to be honest, because Like, you really don't want to put too much solder on it. One trace put into place. As you can see, I soldered it directly into the EMI filter. And I soldered it into the side just to get a great connection. I was trying to go from underneath and just wasn't working out the way I wanted it to. So now we're going to move on to the next pad and do the same thing. All right, so I got all of the copper wires soldered down. Now what I'm doing is just going in here. I'm gonna clean this entire area with this Q-tip. Try to get up all this debris. So let's get up all this old flux, all this debris, and try to end this off of a very, very clean area. All right, so I'm gonna take some solder mask. I'm just gonna put a little bit on here. So I'm gonna have to move it around a little bit. And I lost my actual little syringe I have for this, so bear with me, because typically I could be able to get this spread on there a lot better, but should be able to still be able to maneuver with it like this. So that looks good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna quickly look around, make sure everything is intact. All right, so I'm gonna put this light, put the UV on it, let it cure. Now these UV lights, they help it cure faster. Perfect. And as you guys can see, it is fully cured to the board. Just gonna do it a little bit longer. So you have the solder mask on there. Sorry it doesn't look as good as I would usually have it, but it's on there, so this will work. And as you can see, I got all the points on there. Got it soldered down to the EMI filters. The thing that I had the most trouble with was this one right here. This one right here is where I had the most trouble, but as you can see, I got that in place anyway. So let's get this put partially back together, make sure everything works. And as soon as I put it partially back together, I'll come back on camera and we'll see if we could be able to we'll see if we had a successful repair with this one. All right, guys, so I just realized and almost forgot that on the back of this board, right underneath the HDMI port, you see where we're at, there's also a component missing right there. So, and I'll actually point it out if you guys don't see it. Component is missing right there. And I'm gonna clean up all this crap around here as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off of a donor board. So I'm gonna put my other board under here. Let's find where that component is at. So there it is right there. Let's pull it off this board and we're gonna put it onto the board that we need to get repaired. So I'm gonna pull my heat wand. I'm gonna set my temperature at 440. I'm gonna have the airflow at 15%. And while this is heating up, I'm gonna go ahead and pop a little bit of flux on that, so we can be able to get this pulled off the motherboard and get this taken over to the board that we need to repair. So I'm gonna throw just a little bit more flux on there. Take my solder iron. I'm gonna go in and just send the solder tip. Crack! All right, that came loose. So it was definitely as I expected. It was not all the way down in place, but see if I could be able to just push it up and get it to quickly flow. Okay, so that is now in place. So I had a feeling, I was like, yeah, this doesn't look 100%, so I'm gonna do this. So now that that looks a lot better, now I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm just gonna pop a little bit more flux on there again, and I'm going to take my heat wand once more, and we are going to try to make sure this is perfectly aligned on the board. Okay, there it is. So as you can see, the solder just took it and kind of just floated into place. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. I'm gonna take my toothbrush, dip it in some 99% IPA. I'm going to just thoroughly clean this area. All right, so now we can finally move this microscope, turn off just everything right now. And now we should be able to get this put partially back together. And hopefully we have a working console after doing all of this stuff that we had to do with this console. So let's get it put it partially back together and we'll see what it does. All right, so we have it hooked partially back together, as you guys can see. Here it is right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and power it on. Fan is spinning. We're getting a black screen right now. Let's see if we get anything past this. It sounds like they have a disk in here that's struggling to read as well. Okay, so we have video. And also, as you guys can hear, their disk drive is all, I mean, this console is just, it has so many issues. They took it to this repair shop and it was already just messed up from the jump. And as you can see, it doesn't even want to eject their disk that they have inside of it. But let's make sure this thing can load up at least to the dashboard to make sure it can go at full 1080p before we do anything else. All right, so HDMI port is now working perfectly fine. As you can see, we could go through the entire menu. Everything looks to be just perfectly fine. And now I'm actually gonna have to repair the Blu-ray drive, but I'll do that off screen. So that should be it for this video. Everything looks to be going great. So I'm just gonna turn this console off. Turns off just fine. So that is a PS4 that we got, that another repair shop attempted to repair, and we was able to repair successfully. All right, guys, I hope this video did help you guys out. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know down in the comments below. And if you did stick around this long, make sure you're going ahead and just subscribe to the channel. I try to upload a bunch of repair videos of some of the things that I come across here in my repair office. But yeah, just definitely going ahead and sub to the channel, like this video. If you have any consoles that you want to send in to us that maybe someone else attempted to repair, you can just go on our website, gogamers.com/repair, fill out a repair form, and you can be able to ship in or walk in your game console to any of our store locations. I'll take a crack at it and see if I can be able to get it done. But besides that, I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. See ya.